A single dad janitor was just doing his usual rounds, mop in hand, when a simple mistake changed everything. One slip and water splashed across the CEO's sleek laptop. Her eyes widened, anger flaring, but what she saw on the screen next made her freeze. In that moment, everything she thought she knew about him and about life was about to be turned upside down. The morning sun poured through the towering glass windows of the corporate high-rise, casting long reflections on the polished floors of the office. Inside, the hum of computers blended with the quiet murmur of employees starting their day, each absorbed in deadlines, meetings, and emails. At first glance, everything looked perfect: gleaming desks, immaculate chairs, and an air of calm efficiency. But beneath the surface of this polished world was a rhythm unnoticed by most. The janitor's quiet footsteps as he moved through the hallways, mop in hand, collecting trash, wiping smudges from glass panels, and making sure everything was orderly. He was a man who blended into the background, easily overlooked, yet every movement carried the weight of responsibility. Each floor he cleaned represented not just a job, but a lifeline for the small family waiting for him at home. He was a single father, juggling the exhaustion of work with the endless worries that came from raising a child alone. The creased lines on his face told a story of sleepless nights and early mornings, of counting pennies and stretching every dollar to cover rent, food, and school supplies. Yet, despite the weight he carried, he moved through the office with quiet dignity, careful not to disturb the busy lives of those around him. This particular morning, he carried an extra sense of urgency. His son had been sick the night before, and there were missed assignments that needed attention. He stayed up late helping with homework, trying to explain complex math problems with patience and gentle humor, all while worrying if he'd have enough for groceries later that week. The thought of returning home to a warm meal and a smiling face was the only thing keeping him going. As he pushed his mop across the polished floor, he noticed the hum of activity around him, the clicking of keyboards, the distant ring of phones. He moved carefully, glancing at the workers absorbed in their tasks, making sure he didn't intrude. Then, as he turned a corner near the CEO's office, a sleek, glass-encased room that seemed untouchable, he felt a sudden jolt of distraction. He was thinking about the email he needed to send his son's teacher when the water bucket tipped slightly. In slow motion, he saw droplets arch through the air toward the pristine desk where the CEO's laptop rested. Panic surged through him. He lunged to stop it, but it was too late. Water splashed across the keyboard, pooling dangerously near the sleek device. He froze, heart hammering, imagining the fury that would follow. The office, normally so indifferent, seemed to hold its breath. This one mistake could cost him everything, he thought: his job, his chance to provide, his fragile sense of dignity. And yet, beneath the fear, there was a flicker of hope, an unshakable belief that sometimes even the smallest moments could lead to something unexpected, something that might change everything. He retreated a step, hands trembling, as the CEO emerged from her office. She was the embodiment of precision and authority, every movement deliberate, every glance sharp. Her heels clicked against the marble floor, a rhythm that seemed to echo in the janitor's chest like a warning drum. He barely dared to breathe as she approached, her eyes locked on the wet patch on her desk and the glistening keyboard that had borne the brunt of his mistake. The room felt impossibly small, the distance between them charged with tension. The janitor swallowed hard, voice caught somewhere between apology and panic. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean." His words faltered as she raised a hand, not yet in anger, but in a pause that made him shiver. She was scrutinizing him now, taking in the lines of fatigue etched into his face, the roughness of his hands, the worn edges of his uniform. There was no immediate fury, only a piercing, assessing gaze that made him feel exposed, like every hardship, every failure, every sleepless night had been laid bare. For a moment, time seemed suspended. The office around them carried on, oblivious, but in that small corner, life and consequence hung in delicate balance. He thought of his son waiting at home, of the dinner he hadn't yet cooked, of the bills stacked in neat, terrifying piles. Losing this job wasn't just a professional setback, it would ripple through every aspect of their fragile life. His mind raced for excuses, for some way to explain that it had been an accident, a careless misstep in an otherwise careful life. The CEO's eyes softened ever so slightly, though her expression remained composed. She didn't immediately scold him. Instead, she gestured toward the laptop, the water still shimmering across the sleek black keys. "Was anything important on this?" she asked, voice calm but edged with curiosity, almost as if she expected the answer to confirm her worst fears. The janitor's throat tightened. He could only shake his head, mumbling that he hoped nothing was ruined, that he could clean it, that he would do anything to make it right. As he crouched to dab at the water with his rag, his mind wandered briefly to the irony of his life. Here he was, a man who spent his days making other people's spaces immaculate, and yet a single misstep could threaten to unravel everything. He thought of the late nights helping his son with homework, of the grocery lines, of the bills he stretched and balanced, all reduced to a moment of potential disaster in someone else's office. And yet, there was something quietly profound in the way she waited, in the pause before judgment, as if she, too, were aware that life wasn't always neat or fair. When she leaned closer to inspect the screen, a subtle shift occurred. The tension in the room was still thick, but curiosity replaced anger. The janitor, eyes fixed on her reaction, felt a strange mixture of fear and anticipation. This moment, terrifying and fragile, felt like a hinge on which the rest of his life could swing. He had no way of knowing that what was about to happen next would change not just his day, but the course of everything he had worked so hard to protect. The CEO's gaze lingered on the laptop screen, her sharp eyes scanning quickly, absorbing something that made her pause. The tension that had gripped the room shifted, just slightly, as her expression softened, not completely, but enough to confuse the janitor. He remained on his knees, rag in hand, heart pounding, unsure whether relief or disaster was closer. The office seemed unusually quiet now, the usual hum of printers and chatter fading into the background, leaving only the weight of anticipation hanging in the air. He watched her lean back slightly, a small frown creasing her forehead. For the first time, he noticed a flicker of vulnerability in her, a hint that beneath the polished exterior and iron discipline, she too carried burdens unseen by the outside world. Perhaps she had worked late into the night, carrying the weight of decisions, responsibilities, and expectations that no one else could fully comprehend. It was a fleeting moment, but enough to humanize her in his eyes, to remind him that power and wealth did not exempt anyone from struggle or fear. The janitor struggled to keep his voice steady. I hope it didn't ruin anything," he said softly, almost apologetically. His eyes met hers, and for a moment he felt exposed, like a child being scolded yet simultaneously hoping for understanding. He thought of his son at home, waiting for him to return, and the fragile balance of their life that depended so heavily on the stability of this job. Every fiber of his being wanted her to see him not as a careless worker, but as a man trying desperately to do right by his family. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, and then she clicked on a file. Her eyes widened slightly as the screen illuminated something unexpected. A video she had been working on, a proposal, or perhaps a personal note she hadn't intended anyone else to see. It was raw, heartfelt, a glimpse into her private world, a world filled with intention, passion, and a desire to make a difference beyond the walls of her office. The janitor, noticing her shift in demeanor, could hardly breathe. The anger he had feared, the punishment he had imagined, was dissolving into curiosity, maybe even empathy. She turned slightly toward him, eyes still fixed on the screen, and spoke softly. This isn't what it looks like," she murmured, almost to herself. The words were strange, gentle, and unfamiliar to the janitor. He felt the tension in his chest loosen ever so slightly, replaced by cautious intrigue. Perhaps he thought this moment, terrifying, embarrassing, and utterly unexpected, was about to become something entirely different. Something that could bridge the vast gulf between their worlds. Her corporate empire, his modest life. For a brief second, the office felt suspended in time, a space where rank and status melted away, leaving only two human beings confronted with the fragility and unpredictability of life. He realized that mistakes, even monumental ones, could reveal truths that otherwise remained hidden. And she, too, seemed to understand that what had just happened was not just a mishap. It was an unspoken invitation to see, really see, each other as more than titles, more than roles, more than appearances. The janitor took a hesitant breath, heart still racing, but now mixed with a strange hope. In that pause, that fragile, suspended moment, the first seeds of connection began to take root. He had no idea how the next few minutes would change his life, but he knew instinctively that this encounter, born of fear and accident, was about to become a turning point neither of them could have anticipated. The CEO's fingers lingered over the trackpad, hesitating before she clicked on the next file. Her brow furrowed, not with anger, but with something deeper, a mixture of surprise and curiosity. The janitor remained crouched nearby, rag still in hand, every muscle tense as if bracing for the storm he had expected. Yet the storm never came. Instead, the room seemed to shift subtly, the weight of authority softening into something almost human. He watched her eyes scan the screen, widening slightly with each passing second. There were charts and notes, yes, but also personal reflections, videos of community projects, initiatives aimed at helping children from underprivileged neighborhoods, and letters of encouragement to employees who struggled silently. The janitor's heart thumped as he realized the CEO's world was not just one of profits and deadlines. It was layered, complex, and unexpectedly compassionate. His panic began to mingle with awe, as he glimpsed a side of her that few in the building ever saw. She turned toward him slowly, and for the first time he noticed the tension in her shoulders easing. "I wasn't expecting anyone else to see this," she said quietly, almost embarrassed. Her voice lacked its usual sharpness, replaced instead by a gentle honesty. The janitor swallowed, nodding, unsure whether to apologize again or remain silent. The usual scripts of fear and submission felt inadequate here. The atmosphere demanded something more sincere. He simply said, I didn't mean to. His words faltered, but she stopped him with a small shake of her head, signaling that words were unnecessary. There was a pause, thick with emotion, as the CEO seemed to measure him, not for mistakes or incompetence, but for character. In that silence, he glimpsed something remarkable, a recognition that life's worth was not measured by perfection, but by intention, effort, and resilience. His own struggles, every sleepless night, and every moment of sacrifice for his son suddenly felt visible, acknowledged in the way she looked at him. The janitor's mind raced with gratitude and disbelief. Could someone so powerful truly understand what it was like to fight for every small victory, to shoulder burdens that no one else could see? Could she see his humanity without judgment? The room felt impossibly small, yet the emotional distance between them shrank dramatically. In this suspended moment, the hierarchy that had once defined their interactions seemed irrelevant, replaced by a fragile but genuine connection. Then she smiled, a small, almost imperceptible curve of her lips that carried warmth and understanding. It was not condescending, not pitying, it was recognition. Recognition that even a simple mistake, even a spill of water on a laptop, could reveal truths about courage, humility, and perseverance. The janitor exhaled, the tight coil of fear inside him loosening. In that instant, the incident that had threatened to ruin his day, perhaps even his life, became the doorway to something larger. Empathy, trust, and the possibility of unexpected opportunity. He realized, as she turned back to the screen, that this moment, born from accident, fear, and human error, was transforming into a bridge between two worlds. One grounded in struggle and quiet resilience, the other in influence and hidden compassion. And in that bridge, both of their lives were about to change in ways neither could have anticipated. The janitor stood frozen, still clutching the rag, unsure whether to retreat or remain in the CEO's presence. The initial fear that had gripped him moments ago had given way to a cautious curiosity. He could feel the tension in the room shifting, like a tide turning slowly but inevitably. The CEO's posture, once rigid with authority, now carried an unexpected softness, her attention fully absorbed by what lay before her on the laptop. He sensed that this pause was not simply about the spill or the potential damage. It was about something far more personal, something neither of them had anticipated. She leaned closer to the screen, her eyes scanning the details with a quiet intensity. Charts and graphs intertwined with heartfelt notes and personal reflections, revealing a side of her that few ever witnessed. She had poured not just her intellect but her empathy into these projects, initiatives designed to provide scholarships, fund community programs, and mentor struggling youths. The janitor, recognizing the enormity of what he saw, felt a rush of admiration mixed with disbelief. The woman who had always seemed untouchable, defined by power and success, was engaged in acts of kindness that mirrored the very values he held dear. The room remained silent except for the faint hum of the office, yet the atmosphere felt electric, charged with emotion. He wanted to speak, to apologize again, but words seemed inadequate in the presence of such revelation. Instead, he simply watched, absorbing every detail, every nuance of the documents and videos on the screen. For the first time, he felt that his presence mattered, not because of status or title, but because he, too, was human, navigating challenges with determination and integrity. Her gaze eventually lifted from the laptop, meeting his with a look that carried both curiosity and an unspoken question. There was no anger, no judgment, only a subtle acknowledgement that the incident, frightening and accidental as it had been, had unveiled something deeper. She was measuring him not by the spill, not by the superficial mistake, but by his reaction. The humility, the honesty, the genuine concern for doing what was right. In that instant, the usual boundaries between janitor and CEO dissolved, replaced by a fragile but profound understanding. The janitor exhaled, realizing that he had entered uncharted territory. This was no longer merely about a job or a mistake. It was about connection, empathy, and the recognition of shared humanity. His mind wandered briefly to his son, imagining how he would tell him this story one day, that even in moments of fear and error, there could be unexpected lessons, unexpected kindness, and opportunities that arose from the most unlikely circumstances. The CEO's expression softened further, a small, almost imperceptible smile appearing as she considered the implications of what she had just seen. There was a quiet acknowledgement, a subtle signal that she understood the weight he carried in his daily life. And in that understanding, the janitor felt a warmth he hadn't known in years, a reassurance that mistakes did not define him, that integrity and effort were visible, even when unspoken. As she finally closed the laptop and looked back at him, the room felt transformed. No longer was it a space defined by hierarchy and authority. It had become a shared space of empathy and reflection. The incident, once threatening, had shifted into an opportunity for mutual recognition. In that suspended moment, both lives were poised on the cusp of change, each influenced by the other in ways neither could have predicted, bound by an unexpected bridge of understanding that had emerged from something as simple as spilled water. The CEO's hand hovered over the keyboard for a moment longer, as if reluctant to close the window on what had just revealed itself. The office, once a space defined by polished floors and the hum of productivity, felt quieter, softer somehow, as if the air itself had changed. The janitor stood still, rag in hand, his heart pounding not with fear now, but with cautious anticipation. Every instinct screamed that something monumental was unfolding, something neither of them had expected when the water first splashed across the laptop. Then she spoke, her voice low and unguarded, carrying a weight of sincerity that took him by surprise. "I didn't expect anyone else to see this," she admitted, almost to herself, but with an undertone that invited him into her world. The janitor blinked, unsure whether to respond, feeling the strange vulnerability in her words as a rare gift. In that moment, she was no longer the untouchable CEO, no longer a symbol of distant power. She was simply human, confronting the fragility and hope embedded in her own efforts. He finally found his voice, quiet but steady. I didn't mean to intrude, His words faltered, but she shook her head gently, signaling that he need not finish. The air between them was charged, not with anger or blame, but with curiosity and possibility. He realized slowly that this single moment, born of accident and fear, was transforming into something far greater than either could have anticipated. It was becoming a bridge, connecting two very different lives through honesty, empathy, and shared humanity. The screen displayed personal notes, videos, and plans that spoke of compassion and a desire to make a meaningful difference. Scholarships for children, mentorship programs, charitable initiatives, all meticulously documented, all meant to create a ripple far beyond the walls of the office. The janitor felt his chest tighten with awe. The woman he had feared would be his judge was instead revealing a world of kindness and intention that mirrored the values he had tried to instill in his own son. For the first time, he understood that her power wasn't just in wealth or title. It was in her capacity to care deeply, to act thoughtfully, and to create opportunities for others. The CEO glanced up, eyes meeting his with a quiet intensity. She seemed to weigh not just the spill, not just the mistake, but the person before her. There was a subtle acknowledgement, a recognition that courage, humility, and integrity often came in unassuming forms. The janitor felt a warmth spread through him, a relief mingled with hope. In that suspended moment, he realized that mistakes didn't define a person. How one responded did. The tension in the room began to dissolve, replaced by a fragile sense of trust. For the first time, the janitor felt seen, not as an employee, not as someone defined by a role, but as a human being striving against life's challenges. And she, in turn, seemed to glimpse the humanity that existed beyond her corporate lens, a life filled with resilience, sacrifice, and quiet dignity. As she finally leaned back, a small, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. The laptop was no longer just a tool of work. It had become a window into understanding, a catalyst for empathy. The janitor exhaled, feeling the weight of fear lift, replaced by a sense of possibility. In that quiet office, amidst spilled water and unexpected revelations, a connection had formed, one that would quietly, profoundly alter the course of both their lives. The janitor straightened, still clutching the damp rag, and felt a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. The CEO's gaze remained fixed on him, but it was no longer critical or judging. It was curious, almost searching. He realized that the moment had shifted from fear and potential punishment to something entirely different, an unexpected opening, a chance to be understood. He struggled to find the right words, hesitant to speak too much, yet compelled by the unusual vulnerability he saw in her eyes. I just wanted to make sure nothing was damaged," he said quietly, trying to sound confident though his hands trembled. It wouldn't have mattered, I would have fixed it." His words were simple, sincere, carrying the weight of a man accustomed to taking responsibility, even when circumstances were beyond his control. The CEO's lips curved into a small, almost imperceptible smile, and he felt a flicker of hope. She wasn't angry, not in the way he had feared. Instead, there was a subtle recognition in her expression, as if she understood the life he lived outside these walls, the exhaustion, the struggle, the relentless devotion to family. She finally spoke, her voice soft but steady. "You've been working here for a while, haven't you?" she asked, a hint of genuine interest threading through the question. He nodded, words caught somewhere between pride and humility. He explained briefly, carefully, the long hours he spent maintaining the office, the challenges of balancing work and raising his son, and the little sacrifices he made every day. As he spoke, she listened, not just with her ears, but with an openness that made him feel seen, truly seen, for the first time in a long while. For the CEO, this was unfamiliar territory. She was used to being in control, used to issuing directives and seeing results. Yet here was a man whose life was defined not by titles or status, but by integrity, perseverance, and quiet courage. She realized that his world, though materially modest, was rich in resilience and love, qualities often overlooked in the pursuit of corporate success. In that moment, she felt a surprising connection, an empathy that transcended the usual boundaries between them. The janitor's eyes met hers, and he noticed a subtle softening in her features, a vulnerability that mirrored his own. It was as though the spill, the accident, and the fear had acted as a bridge, collapsing the distance between their worlds. He saw the human beneath the title, the woman striving to make a difference beyond profit margins, and he recognized the courage it took to carry such responsibility with compassion. A quiet understanding passed between them. He realized that his mistake had inadvertently opened a door, not to punishment, but to connection. She, in turn, recognized the dignity and determination that defined his life, despite circumstances that could have crushed his spirit. The janitor exhaled, the tension in his chest easing, and for the first time, he felt the possibility of something more. Not just tolerance or forgiveness, but respect, understanding, and even the faint glimmer of opportunity. In that small office, amidst the scent of polished wood and the faint hum of computers, the lines of hierarchy blurred. Two people from vastly different worlds found themselves confronting not a mistake, but a shared humanity. And in that unexpected, fragile space, the seeds of trust and connection were quietly beginning to take root. The office felt warmer now, the tension of the earlier accident replaced by a quiet, almost fragile sense of possibility. The janitor, still holding his rag, realized that the CEO's eyes no longer carried suspicion or irritation. They carried thoughtfulness, curiosity, and perhaps even admiration. It was as if the spilled water had not destroyed anything at all. Instead, it had revealed something hidden, a doorway into a side of her world that few ever glimpsed. He felt his heart lift slightly, the burden of fear easing as he sensed that this encounter could change more than just a single morning. She finally spoke, her voice measured, carrying a weight that was both professional and unexpectedly human. "I see now that there's more to you than just cleaning floors," she said softly, almost to herself. The janitor blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. He had spent years working quietly, unnoticed, simply trying to provide for his son and maintain his dignity, never expecting acknowledgement from anyone in the office, let alone the CEO herself. Her words, simple yet profound, struck him deeply. It wasn't a reward, not yet, but it was recognition, the rarest of gifts for someone like him. He lowered the rag and straightened, trying to stand taller despite the lingering nervousness. I just do my best," he replied quietly, the honesty in his voice palpable. "I have a family counting on me, and I try to make sure I don't let them down." She nodded, her eyes reflecting understanding, and for a moment, he saw a glimpse of the person beneath the suit, the titles, and the authority. Someone who valued integrity, effort, and resilience just as he did. The CEO gestured toward the laptop again, and this time, the screen was no longer just a collection of charts and videos. It became a symbol, a mirror reflecting the shared human experience of struggle, hope, and perseverance. She spoke softly about the initiatives she was developing, the mentorship programs, and the community projects, and the janitor listened with growing admiration. He realized that her influence extended beyond profit and hierarchy. She had the power to create meaningful change, and her intentions were deeply aligned with the values he held dear in his own life. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine possibilities beyond mere survival. What if this encounter wasn't just a fluke? What if it was an opportunity, an unexpected chance for growth, understanding, or even change? He caught himself smiling faintly, a small, cautious hope rising within him. She noticed, and there was a subtle acknowledgement in her eyes, as if she, too, sensed the potential in this unlikely connection. The air between them softened further, the office now feeling less like a space of hierarchy and more like a shared arena of humanity. They began to converse, not formally, not in the strict language of roles, but as two people connecting over vulnerability, courage, and mutual recognition. The janitor felt a quiet pride, a renewed sense of dignity, and for the first time, he realized that sometimes the most unexpected mistakes could lead to the most profound transformations. By the time he prepared to leave the office, he knew something had shifted irreversibly. This encounter, born of a spilled bucket and trembling hands, had blossomed into understanding, respect, and the faint but unmistakable promise of opportunity. And as he walked away, the weight on his shoulders felt lighter, replaced by a cautious optimism that life, despite its hardships, could sometimes surprise you with unexpected generosity and connection. The janitor walked back through the office halls, each step feeling lighter than the last. The floors gleamed under the morning sunlight, but for him, they carried a new meaning now, not just a place of labor, but a bridge between two worlds. He could still feel the echo of the CEO's gaze, not critical, not judging, but thoughtful and observant. It lingered in his mind like a quiet affirmation, a reminder that moments of fear and mistakes could transform into something far greater than punishment or regret. As he passed other employees, he noticed their faces, their hurried movements, and realized he had always been a ghost in this space, unseen and unremarkable. Today felt different. Today, he carried with him a subtle, almost imperceptible dignity, a sense that he mattered beyond the task at hand. He thought about his son at home, about the stories he would share, and the small but significant hope he could pass along. For the first time in a long while, he imagined a future where his efforts were acknowledged, where mistakes didn't define him, and where his quiet perseverance could intersect with opportunity in unexpected ways. Meanwhile, the CEO returned to her office, but her mind lingered on the janitor and the incident. She reflected on the spilled water, the accident, and the unusual honesty he had shown in the face of potential reprimand. It struck her how easily society categorized people by status, appearance, and occupation, overlooking the humanity and courage hidden beneath the surface. The janitor had reminded her, in a simple and unassuming way, of the value of humility, resilience, and integrity, qualities she admired but often found rare in her corporate world. In the following days, subtle changes began to take place. The CEO started to see the janitor in a new light, consulting him occasionally for insights on practical matters in the office, or simply sharing a kind word. These gestures, small yet meaningful, transformed the atmosphere not only for him, but for the people around them. Meanwhile, the janitor approached his work with renewed energy and pride. He no longer felt invisible. His contributions, both big and small, began to feel recognized, not just for what he did, but for who he was. The office, once a rigid world of hierarchy and titles, became a space of quiet empathy and understanding. Colleagues noticed the subtle shifts: the CEO's unexpected gestures of kindness, the janitor's renewed confidence, the small interactions that reflected mutual respect. What had begun as a terrifying mishap had blossomed into a ripple of connection that extended beyond a single encounter, touching lives in ways neither could have foreseen. In the evenings, the janitor returned home to his son with a lightness he hadn't felt in years. He shared stories of the day, of small victories and human kindness, passing along a message far greater than the accident itself. That life, in its unpredictability, sometimes rewards honesty, courage, and empathy in ways that defy expectation. And in that shared space of home, work, and reflection, both the janitor and the CEO discovered a truth that transcended status, wealth, and circumstance: the quiet, enduring power of human connection. The janitor stood at the edge of his small apartment window, watching the city lights flicker as dusk settled in. The events of the past days replayed in his mind: the spilled water, the moment of panic, the unexpected glimpse into the CEO's world, and the subtle transformation that had followed. He realized how fragile and unpredictable life could be, how a single moment could shift the trajectory of a life in ways no one could foresee. What had seemed like a simple accident had become a turning point, revealing the profound impact of empathy, honesty, and courage. At the same time, the CEO sat in her office, reflecting on the incident with a quiet smile. The encounter with the janitor had reminded her of the humanity often overlooked in the pursuit of success and efficiency. It had shown her that true leadership was not just about titles, profits, or strategy. It was about recognizing potential, valuing integrity, and acting with compassion. In that brief, unexpected exchange, she had witnessed the quiet strength of someone often invisible to the world, and it had changed the way she approached her work, her employees, and her own life. The story of their encounter spread quietly through the office, not through gossip, but through subtle shifts in perception and behavior. Colleagues began to notice the renewed respect in the janitor's interactions, the small yet meaningful acknowledgments from the CEO, and the ripple effect of kindness and understanding that now colored the workplace. It was a reminder that every interaction, no matter how small, held the potential to transform lives when met with empathy and grace. At home, the janitor shared the lessons he had learned with his son, not as a story of fear or punishment, but as a story of courage, humility, and human connection. He taught him that mistakes do not define a person, that integrity and perseverance are visible in actions and character, and that sometimes the kindness of one person can change the course of another's life in ways no one expects. His son listened with wide eyes, absorbing a truth that would stay with him for a lifetime: that human compassion is more valuable than wealth, more powerful than authority, and more lasting than any material success. The moral of this story is simple yet profound. Life's challenges and mistakes can reveal not only our vulnerabilities, but also our capacity for empathy, connection, and transformation. Every act of kindness, every moment of understanding, has the power to change a life. Whether we are in positions of power or simply striving to do our best in everyday life, we each hold the ability to create ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs a reminder of the power of empathy and integrity. Take a moment today to acknowledge the people around you, the quiet heroes, the unseen efforts, the small gestures that make a difference. And remember, sometimes the smallest acts, the simplest moments, can open doors to compassion, understanding, and change that lasts a lifetime.